Yeah, so guys, I'm super excited to welcome all the Get Overbooked family and the alumni and the guests who have joined us today for our first session of micro learning series. So in this micro learning series, it's a twice a week event where we will host an expert on a highly contemporary and valuable topic so that you can utilize this lockdown period very well. So for the people who are new or who are the guest who doesn't know me, so my name is Chandan Goyal and I'm the moderator of this micro learning series. So before we start today's session, let me just invest few minutes sharing the flow of the session and some ground rules with you so that you get the maximum value from the time you are investing today. Yeah, so the duration of this session, as you are already aware, that it's around 40 to 50 minutes. So initially the expert today will take 30 minutes. He will share his presentation. And then after the presentation is over, in the end, we will be having 10-15 minutes, which will be available for the question and answer session. And during this presentation or entire session, please keep your video and your audio on mute so that there is no disturbance or distraction for everybody and we can enjoy this session fully. In case during the session, if you want to share anything, you want to give a thumbs up or virtual high five, you can do that through chat box option. Or if you want to share it, any comment privately to somebody, you can do that as well. So in the question answer session, what we will do that you need to raise your hand. So there is a option, I'm sure all of you are aware. In case you're not aware, you can explore that during the session. You can raise your hand, and looking at the people who want to ask a question, I will call upon a person and I will unmute the video and audio both so that the person can ask and the expert will answer the question. So lastly, but not the least, because today is our first session of this series, so you might experience some little bit technical glitches. So please bear that with us. And there is a good news that we are recording this session, and at the end of it, like, we would be sharing this with you all so that you can refer it in the future. So isn't it exciting? So just type in chat box that it's super exciting so that I get to know that you are super, Yogen. Oh, wow, wow, super, super. So now, guys, I'm super excited to present our expert for today's session, who is none other than our friend and innovation catalyst, Utssav Gupta. Give him a big round of applause virtually. So Utssav is a strategic architect by profession, and if you could recall that Utssav has always talked about many a time with us that innovation is the need of the hour to create disruption in whatever we are doing. But today, unfortunately, this pandemic has caused a disruption, and Utssav will guide us today how to get prepared in this situation and how to leverage it for our personal life and our professional life. So this is what Utssav is going to talk about in the today's session. The session name is Future Casting 2.0. So now, without taking much time, let me give Utssav Gupta to you. So Utssav, over to you, man.
Thanks, Pankaj. Thanks for the wonderful introduction, and welcome everybody. You have taken so much time to come out over here in the morning, and I hope everybody is well and healthy and the families are safe. So micro learning sessions was started with this one being the first one, to see how we can take forward the value that we can create in each other in this lockdown time. And what better than addressing our first fear about what's going to happen after the pandemic is over, after how the pandemic unfolds and how the business is going to come back. There's a lot of fear and there's a lot of panic around that. And so today we're going to talk about the future casting beyond COVID-19 pandemic and how we can learn from what is going to happen now and in the future. So you've seen how it has been unfolding in the major economic centers of the world. China taking the worst hit, Italy following by that. And fortunately, because of the proactive steps of our government, India is actually much lower in number. We only have 1,200 cases reported this morning, whereas if you see the world, we are over 2.5 lakh cases coming up. And this has taken some aggressive steps by the government. This has been because there have been isolations and lockdown. So in this current 21 days lockdown, the economy has taken a hit. The business have stalled. There's a lockdown in India and abroad. The supply chains have got disrupted, and a lot of threat to life is happening, which is causing fear and panic all around. And one wonders that how can we cope up with this situation, what to do, and how to come back after this thing is over. So there's a lot of anxiety level I feel generally in the public. Everybody is speculating about how we can get around it and what is the way forward. So no doubt, guys, this is a very testing time. From the financial standpoint, it has taken the worst hit in the stocks. Nose diving, if you can see the forecast from BBC, in the past month itself, within the March, it has nosedived to several points. And those who have invested in MF, when they track their wealth, I'm sure they will be able to see what's going on. Of course, this is temporary, but yeah, it just creates a sense of awareness of what's happening within the financial market. So this event by economists is one of those events called as the black swan event. Now, black. So who wants to know what's a black swan event? Tell me on the chat box. Who wants to know what's the black swan event and how can we go around it? Great. So I'm getting some replies. That means people are seeing and they are able to hear me well. So black swan event is defined as a disproportionate role of a high profile, hard to predict, and a rare event beyond the realms of normal expectation in history, science, finance, and technology. So what happened was there was a historian and he said that, look, no matter how many times you study the white swan, but only when you find a black swan will you be able to get to know what's going to happen. So that's how this name coined. And what we're talking about is an extremely disproportional sized event that has the consequences beyond the normal expectations. And coronavirus is certainly one of those. So when the black swan event happens, and it happens in a very, very low frequency, it's very unlikely, once in several years it happens. But when it happens, the severity and the intensity of the impact it creates is phenomenal. So you can see the graph, how steep the impact is when the black swan event happens. So the big question today is that what can we do in these times when such a black swan event is happening? And the coronavirus is certainly a very, very big black swan event. We're going to see more how that has unfolded over the time. So as an immediate solution, we gotta take care of our brand. We're gonna be true to our brand and our purpose. So communication is very, very important in this time. Communicate with your customers, communicate with your team, develop new ways to work with them. So work from home. A lot of people have taken work from home. A lot of people are serving their clients through Zoom meetings as such. So great initiative, guys, if you're doing that. Be loyal to the best of your customers. Take care of them. Take care of your loyal customers. Very, very important to support each other. Look at their pains. This is a perfect time to take a feedback. This is a perfect time to get in touch with them to see what they're really feeling. And so you can have a great information to what to do next if you engage with a customer right now. Review your digital properties. Guys, nothing can be more saving than reviewing your digital properties, reviewing what you have, how you can do your meetings offline. Simple things like WhatsApp, video chatting through WhatsApp and all can make a great difference with your customer and your teams. And spend wisely. Every cash matters. So be very, very judicial of where to spend, what you can cut, what you can support, but do a fair share. Don't make a misbalance between not paying somebody and just investing in something else. Do a fair share. So this is all part of a reactive measure of how you can be true to your brand and purpose. But the bigger question is that what can be done with our organizations to make it future ready against such pandemics or more so? So that's the biggest question that we have, and everybody has. I guess I believe, what can be done for the future? So who wants to know that? Who wants to see what can be done for the future? Great. So I can still see people are, you know, people are there with me. That's perfect, guys. So I want to share a perspective here, and be very careful on what I'm going to say over here. This is the graph I found out for the financial economy of the last 100 years. And pandemics such as Corona happened once, but look at the graph, what it is showing. It's full of peaks and highs. It's full of peaks and lows. And you see the red marks, they are peaks and there's lows, and there's something or other happening every time that there's a change in the world system. There's something, the events keep on happening. And so the whole impact on the financial circle is pretty much there in the last 100 years. So what does it tell us? So my point I'm trying to bring over here is that black swan events like like this coronavirus thing are not the alone events. There are other events that have happened, and there are other events that will happen in the future as well. So at the global level, we saw SARC, we saw Ebola, we saw 2008 economic crash, we saw 2000 WTC crash. At a country level, we saw GST implementation and demonetization impacting a lot of businesses. And then, of course, there are personal circumstances that happens in everybody's life, which turn out to be the black swan events, and they're disrupted from the regular flow. Business gets impacted. So it's not just the coronavirus that creates a disruption. It's also these events in your daily life that creates disruption. And more importantly, when the market changes, market competition happens, their trend changes, the disruption also happens due to that. So being future ready is not just about corona. It is about a habit of understanding these ups and downs, and being and developing a mechanism to face these ups and downs, including your market competition, including the changing trends that we face in our daily lives. So the big question now today is, how do we do that? Once we understand that this phenomena, corona, is not the only phenomena, the next question comes is that how can we prepare ourselves for the other kind of black swan events that usually happen and we don't know. We usually are pretty, there is silence in the whole atmosphere when these events happen, but they happen, and they happen for real. So having said that, if there's one word that I want to leave you today is about resilience. Building resilience is the next game that will help us fight these black swan events. So what is resilience? It's a capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. Also, it is the ability to sustain and spring back into shape. Yeah. So I'll repeat again. It's a capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. So resilience is a backup plan. It's a backup plan that we build in our businesses, in our lives, that helps us spring back, that helps us come back. So for instance, if somebody has data online, for instance, we can very well have data offline. We can very well have data well into our files and stuff like that. But if you have a data online, and if such a pandemic would happen, is it not part of your resilience that you planned for it and now you're able to work from home because you have access to your data? So very small example. So these kind of steps helps you to create resilience within your business and within your lives. And without resilience, we are always the hanging balance between always being reactive and being proactive. So being reactive is hysteria, the fear, the unpreparedness that we have, that the world is currently going on. Whereas if you are resilient, or if you have resilience built into your businesses, you are more proactive. There's a backup plan. You will not only survive, but you will also thrive. In 2008 crash, where the businesses were going down in US and other parts of country, some businesses also took off very, very well. What's the secret behind that? They had resilience. They had the opportunity. They capitalized on the opportunity because they had resilience. They could stay. They could be on their ground and they could be on their feet, and that helped them spring back and gain new heights. So, how do we build the resilience? Well, you got to look at the unknown. So there are three main steps that I figured out that has helped build resilience. So one is understanding the silent risks. So what are the risks that you have? What are the risks you incur of? I'm not talking about the ones that are visible. I'm talking about the ones that are silent. Coronavirus was a sitting risk that one day the country will shut down and what will happen to us. So did we plan for that risk? Did we even think about that risk? Evolving trends. So what are those trends that are going to come up as a part of this future forecasting? Will we be able to work from home, for instance? Is that an evolving trend come from that is going to emerge? Will we consult people from home? Will we consult people on go? Will we what will we do? What are the evolving trends that are going to come up in the future? And emerging unsaid needs. Whereas the emphasis on the word is unsaid, because a lot of people are suffering, and a lot of clients are suffering, but they're not telling. So you got to read between the lines. You got to read between what they are not saying and figure out what needs to come after that. So these are the three markers that will help you plan your steps towards resilience. And what you need to do thereafter is to create adaptability, change the business tactics as to meet the needs. So for example, if let's say if there is a work to be done right now, if the client calls you for all the people who are in service industry, well, you will just pick up your iPad, you will just pick up full out the data and consult him on the phone. So that's a change in business tactic, where you always used to consult them over in an office hours or something. You will now be able to consult them on the go, and that's adaptability. There are also other examples of business direction. For example, a lot of people are IIT is creating sanitizers. It was not their business to do sanitizer, but they had the capability and they saw the opportunity and they started changing their business tactics. Though it was not a monetization purposes, it was more for social purposes. But nevertheless, the point is that we need to be adaptable. We need to imbibe adaptability within our businesses. Future casting is very, very important. We always are looking into the current scenario, but what about the future? What about, have we invested in the research? Have we invested in creating the backups? Have we invested in the future trends? Have we invested in knowing the future trends? Have we invested in what is going to be the next frontier for your profession? So have you future casted and have you invested in the research that is going to take your business to the next level? That is very, very important when the times are normal. Cultural setting, building the flexibility and compassion. So if, let's say, as an entrepreneur, you're working from home, but your team isn't used to it, what are you going to do? Your team is not motivated for it. What are you going to do? So setting up the culture, a client-centric culture, and bringing flexibility within the team with compassion creates resilience. It creates a fallback mechanism so that you're able to see and cope up with it. And lastly, and most importantly, pooling up the systems and tech tools as a resource. So strengthening your backbone. So if you have this system in place, then the system works for itself. If you invest in technology, the technology reaches the payment. Anybody who has been working from home now and has invested in technology will be able to relate to this, how much it is important for building the resilience within the organization. So it turns out it's not that hard actually, if we really think about it. If I were to show you this picture just 1 month ago and suggest that let's do school education from home, let's do modules for your children over your display, so that the teachers are there on the display and people can, students can learn. What would you have said? What would everybody have said? Well, it's a future. It's not really required, right? And yet, this is exactly what is happening currently in China. This picture is from March 2nd, 2020. And this article says 3 ways corona pandemic could reshape the education. So the technology was always there, and we never saw it this way. So what is missing? What is really we're trying to come up over here? It's the will, guys. It's about looking beyond. It's about thinking beyond the conventional. I'll tell you one more example. Telehealth. The notion of, we're going to have doctors on the other side of the phone. They're going to ask us how you're feeling. They're going to ask us the symptoms, and they're going to prescribe whatever they can prescribe on over the telehealth system. Something I have personally been working for the past 4 years, and I'm sure all the doctors on the house will be able to relate to it. But it has never kicked off that much it has kicked off in this pandemic zone. This is my picture. Just last week, I consulted for my eyes with the doctor by sending him a picture and taking a telemedicine. So that was technology was always there. We always have our phones. We have the cameras are there, and yet we never exercise this option. So if we look beyond what is there in front of us, the ways are already there, and we just have to innovate around that. One of the great example of that is what we currently are having right now, the Go micro learning sessions. So it was the intent of the team. It started with Chandan's idea of why lose the momentum? Why not we can create value through Zoom meeting and other kind of webinars instead of really conducting a formal Go session. And Akshay Bhai and everybody endorsed. And this is a picture from yesterday. We were trying to do a mock run. And look, now today we have we have 68 people joined this Zoom. Great, guys. I mean, I really appreciate you coming out and taking your time out. But this session itself shows a possibility of what you can do as a future, how you can change the future, and how you can think different in order to create resilience and still go on. But there's a big question about what happens if you are part of a supply chain, if you're part of a dependent chain where you have dependency on people above and people below. And for example, if you have shipments coming from China, what do you do? Or if you have customers who are based outside, what do you do then in a lockdown happening situation over here? So I'm not expert in a chain management system, but I Googled some articles yesterday, and I found out that most of the people who have into supply chain management are only looking at two things today to be able to prepare for the future. One is the risks that we've already talked about. So you need to look at the risk on the sustainability and on the human rights level. So for example, if you have supply chains coming from, let's say, Kerala, which was blocked in the first day itself. So there is some risk associated with Kerala, because we saw how the pandemic was creating the Nipah virus also got attached to Kerala, and so there's the risk, and the plan accordingly will change once you start assessing your own portfolio in terms of where the sustainability lies and how do you manage your risk to get over this thing. And the whole intent is to innovate the process and to build a resilient ecosystem. As a supply chain, you need to have a resilience built into the ecosystem itself. So the four things that people are saying, that the CSRs are saying, is to understand your potential partners, about their resilience infrastructure, how they can support you in the times, and how you can support your further upward sides, for when such a time comes. Do your suppliers due diligence. That's the only way you can know. Don't just go on prices like how we usually do. Do a proper due diligence to understand what is the value that he is associating with you. What is the brand that he has as a brand value that he has, to bring that resilience into the attitude of the entire team. And plan a budget accordingly. Plan a budget for the supply resilience and plan a budget for the impact resilience. So these are the nuggets that I found from the website, and I think they are all pointing towards the fact that you need to understand the risks, and you need to innovate the process to build a resilient supply chain system to be able to sustain through this time. And as we know about the jobs to be done theory, Akshay has taken that up during the Get Overbooked session. We always focus towards the main job of the product, and we look at how we can develop the product at the best. But what I have come to understand recently is, with all my architecture experience, is also that resilience and other kind of the sustenance is usually lying on the related job, which is on the right side, which we usually neglect, which is normally on the hind side because it is silent. And therefore the framework that we use is the blue grid map, specifically talks about the risks and the technology behind any kind of a venture, any kind of a model that is coming up, from both the perspectives, from the main job and from the rated job. And that is what has built resilience into my projects, which I design, through resilience for, again, the other many kinds of black swan events they have gone through, and they have been resilient in those. So as an opportunity towards of this corona has brought out those things which otherwise in a normal life we do not get to see, we do not get to experience. And therefore, like Steve Jobs said, you can only connect the dots when you're looking backwards. Well, yeah, here's your moment. You can look backwards and you can see what's going on, and you can assess. Now you'll be more informed after corona, you'll be more equipped after corona lockdown gets off, and innovate your processes, innovate your supply chain into a resilient, uh, into a resilient manner, and get prepared for the next black swan event. So this is my strong statement: COVID-19 will fuel the next wave of the businesses and innovation. So do you want to be the next generation business? So that's a question, guys. How many of you want to be the next generation business after Corona's pandemic is over? Great, great. I'm seeing a lot of replies here. So yeah, towards a closing remark, I just want to leave one more nugget with you. And this is somewhere my spiritual side is also coming out for all the life coaches here, on the session. So there is a law of universe, the law of rhythm, that says what has to come up will always also go down. So there are good sides and the bad sides. And I've explained that in my book, but just for the webinar, look at the curve on the left side. It's a typical sine wave curve, and see what you observe on the curve on the right side. Yeah, full of ups and downs. Some are up, some ups are low, some ups are down, lesser, and some are peaks, some are not so peak. So what does it really tell? It's a law of universe. It's what the universe, how it functions. It's how the nature functions. There will be ups and there will be downs, and it's in the nature that such events happen in our lives, whether on a global scale or at a personal scales. It is in the nature that these things happen, and nature, like how it has given us immunity to our bodies, and so is the resilience for business and organizations. So if one was to see what resilience does, again, this is in my book, how we can use this phenomena and create an upward trajectory of growth. But where resilience truly plays its part is in the down curve. Resilience supports sustaining through this phase. So if Corona was what's going on and resilience would have been the case, then resilience would have supported, it will support us in the future as well, whenever there's a pandemic of such nature. So that is my closing remark, and I encourage everybody to look at the situation as a learning, and to facilitate innovation in your businesses to create resilience. And for that, I'm offering today my e-version of the book, which was released in January. A lot of people have already got asked for it, and I've sent it to the couriers. But for those who want to still read and they don't have it, so the e-version is available today for all the participants. You just have to let me know. I'll just float a form after this webinar, and I'm going to send you all the e-version that you can take your time in this lockdown and read it. And as additionally, I'm also trying to work out some discounts from the publisher for my next version, which covers all these topics, which I was hoping to get released in March, but we are surely trying to get it in April. So everybody who's interested, they will be able to obtain that once it's out on a discounted price. But the whole point is that build, take this time out and build resilience as much as you can in your businesses. Take this time out to figure out what can be done, and understand what your client wants, and where you can actually innovate yourself into for the next phase. Thanks, guys. Over to you, Chandan.
Yeah, thank you so much, Utssav, for such an enlightening session on resilience and sharing so much about how we can, utilize and turn the tide in this particular pandemic scenario. So, guys, keep sharing your feedback in the chat box session, so that Utssav he feels that what you are feeling. Super. So now we are opening it to for a question and answer session. So whosoever have a question, so we will do it in this way, that they will raise their hand and I will be able to see their hand, that whosoever is interested, and I will unmute their audio and video so that they can ask that question and Utsav will answer that. So whosoever is interested, so please raise your hand. So Kavi was having a question. I could read that in the chat box. So Kavi, would you like to ask the question? Are you there? Kaviraj, yes, Kavi is there. So Kavi, can I unmute you?
Yes.
Yeah, Kavi, you are unmuted.
Okay, so thank you very much, Chandra sir, and it was very helpful early in the morning. And precisely this is the way what everybody should have right now to communicate, with the team members and other colleagues. So my question is very simple, that I just wanted to understand if there are any models or theories so that, we can predict the occurrence of the same event in future, whether it's related to economy or businesses or any other thing.
Yeah, so hi Kaviraj, thanks for coming on this today morning. Yes, there are some models available that and are under development right now, which are able to track and forecast these kind of events. Uh, these models, they are currently under development and they're not perfect. And they require a lot of data, background data. For that, Google I know, is working from one. But currently it's not available to public. They are just on all research phases. And yeah, by the way, none of those models were able to see this coronavirus coming at this time. They were able to understand that there is some pandemic coming in for sure in the coming years, but they did not time it out. They were not able to decipher the time on which it's going to come. So yeah, maybe the world will progress towards in a way where we might be able to figure out all the black swan events much ahead of our time. Models will be on the way. So yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, so thank you, Kavi, for asking this question. So you can unmute yourself. Now, Rakesh Arya wants to ask a question, Utsav. So I am unmuting Rakesh. So Rakesh, you can also start your video as well so that Utsav can see you. Rakesh, you are on. You can ask.
Hi everybody, good morning. Hi Utssav, thanks for a nice session. It was
Hi,
not
Rakesh.
less than a new Gita from Krishna to Arjun. So many Arjuns are there, Pandavas there. So what about our next book we discussed last time?
We're going to discuss that, sir, after this webinar. Let's take it offline there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So anybody, Rakesh, anybody else you have a question for Utsav?
Sandeep is saying he wants to ask. Sandeep Gupta.
Sandeep
Solomon is also.
Yeah, just a minute. Solomon, where is Solomon? Just a minute, Solomon. Yeah, Solomon, you can ask and come on the video as well. You can, Solomon, you can ask.
Hi, Utssav, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
So, Utssav, I have a question. Yeah. So, Utssav, my question to you was in this tough time where, I have got a set of clients who are into distribution and who are also into the manufacturing part, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, the challenge with them is since they are not able to manufacture in this time, and obviously, since there is a big fear with respect to COVID-19, my question was that if since you do a lot of forecast and since you do a lot of analysis, when do you think that the wheel will start moving in the right direction? Because I can clearly see that since there is no demand, there is no supply, and since there is no supply, the sales are kind of low. It's all-time low right now. So from the sales point of view, I just wanted to just check with you that when do you see this market, or you can say the industry, with respect to manufacturers and distributors taking off, and the sales kind of getting back in action.
Solomon, that's a tough one. I don't think anybody will tell when the things will be completely normal. या तो कोई astrologer बता पाएगा या कोई पंडित बता पाएगा at this moment. But I want to share a thought with you. So the law of universe that I was talking about states that when you have something of a low, that doesn't mean that it will stay low. It will come back high, and it will come back and rebound itself as a thing. And so this temporary phase of low supply and demand, it's just temporary. It's not permanent. And it will, so the world needs everything. The world will need everything in terms of, it will require food, it will require clothes, it will require all the necessities that are going to come in. And therefore, after this lockdown is over, the economy will slowly, gradually come back. And that's what we have to be prepared about. That's what, when things will come back, what will we do next? How will we cater to that influx of demand? And how will we sustain through this lean period of when the demand is low? Because kharche to hai na pure. So instead of focusing towards when it's going to happen, the right focus is towards, so when it happens, what we're going to do, and until then, what we're going to do. So if we change the way we think, disruption to har jagah hai, but if we change the way we think, we will be able to get our answers there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now I am asking Sandeep Gupta. I'll just unmute Sandeep Gupta to ask the question. Yeah, Sandeep, you are unmuted now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, very much, Sandeep.
Hi, Utssav, how are you? So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, buddy, for today's thought-provoking. A lot of things that have started rolling up in the mind and in the right direction. What needs to be done? Usko thoda sa zyada clarity mili hai abhi. One thing I want to know is what are your views on the businesses where the direct contact with the clients is required? Like I'm obviously asking for the salon industry where there's no option but for a client to definitely walk into a salon and get that services done hand on, right? So there are different, like suppose restaurant industry. Right? So delivery is one part, but restaurant is something which is more experience based, right? So what's your take on these kind of things? How will they shape up, or if you have any insights on that?
Yeah. So so there are a lot of businesses which require a one-on-one contact. Yours being one of them, and so same as in my industry, if the construction doesn't happen, and that cannot be done virtually or anything of that sort.
Yeah.
So resilience in this case will be about how you can alternatively think about touching base with the customers. So you may not be the actual salon grooming is not really happening. It can't happen in this lockdown, but what else you can do to keep your customers engaged, and what other line of businesses alongside you can develop which will be able to sustain your resilience factor through this time and much more to come. Of course, I mean, nobody thought that this can be a lockdown. I don't know who is the most with the highest vintage in our group, and I'm sure that he would also suggest that is something like that has never happened in his lifetime. So how can it be possible for us? But that's what the whole lesson is. Yeah, these things happen and they come up with and you're compelled to think about in the scenario where you haven't seen about it before. So yeah, think about how you can engage your customers even at this time creatively, and what you can do once the lockdown gets over, what you can do with them to gain the loyalty, and how you can churn out that period out.
So basically, in a nutshell, it's a time which we can utilize to strategize, right? Thinking about it and strategize and keeping in touch with the clients and seeing how we can, at this point of time, try and deliver some sort of value to them so that we are engaged on a certain level. And meanwhile, parallelly thinking that what we are going to do once this is over, keeping in mind the kind of shape or ways this industry can change.
So yeah, there are two steps currently we can do. One is what we can do now, because we don't, obviously we're not prepared for that kind of resilience. So yes, if you were to ask about what we're going to do now, we guess it's about creatively getting in touch with our clients and figuring that out. But what I'm really saying is that after this is over, that's when you start thinking about building resilience. That's when you can start thinking about what more you can do in your current business that will help you prevent this kind of a thing in future.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So now we have Ruchi with us who want to ask a question. So Ruchi, I'm just unmuting you so you can ask.
So Amit has a suggestion for you, Sandeep. Home grooming has already started, Sandeep.
I read that. So Ruchi is online now. So Ruchi is.
And okay, so hi Utssav. It was a wonderful session. Thank you so much. Now, when we were talking about resilience today, can you hear me?
Ruchi, you can, your video is off.
So I'm trying to open it, but it says the host has stopped.
No issues. Carry on. We can hear you.
Okay, never mind. It says the host has stopped, so it's not okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Utssav, my question is that you're talking about resilience, right? Now, resilience is something that you would be preparing for. It could be, since we don't know what our black swan is going to be like. It's going to be in the form of a war, or it's going to be in the form of a virus, or whatever it is going to be. We do not know. So we're going to be just preparing ourselves. So whether it is in terms of processes or in terms of, going online or whatever. So I personally feel, I have a feeling or a question rather. So only when you are out of this space of downfall that you would know how resilient you have been.
Yeah. So what's the question?
So my question is like, I could be preparing for something, but I don't know, is it in the right direction or not? So what would be the right way of developing a resilience for the business? So one would be, of course, having enough cash so that you're able to sustain. Okay. So one is like a no-brainer. What about the others that one could think of?
You got to assess your risk, Ruchi. The plan of action will come around how well you're able to understand the risk, the one which are apparent and one which are also not apparent, the silent risks.
Could you elaborate a little more?
Yeah. Okay. So let me share a personal story. So you know about the Black Swan event that happened in my life about a year ago with my dad.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in the group also know about it. And what that happened was, since it was a very sudden, his demise, and he was a partner at the firm, and he was obviously the family. Nobody had prepared us for something like that, and nobody had told us कि ऐसा कुछ होगा, and yet it happened without any forecast, without even any forecast possibly able to tell that. And so what happened was that after that event happens, we start preparing. We started understanding our risks. We started understanding what can possibly go wrong, what we possibly need to do to battle this thing out in the future. And we installed some things. We installed some systems. We installed some tech. We installed some culture in our firm in the past 1 year. And what I can clearly see is that even in this entire lockdown period, there was no single day that we have stopped working. Anybody in our firm, there was no single person who stopped working on his own. They were internally motivated. We had the tech that could support it. We had the system that could support it. There was a training available that we have been undergoing through for the past 1 year. And yet the whole this whole pandemic situation, it's sort of not fallen us in the way that it would have fallen us. We never thought that there going to be such kind of black swan event coming after in the past few months, and yet the preparation that we did from the last black swan event helped us in this one. So every time a disruption happens in your life, in your business, in your industry, it's a signal, it's a sign, it's an opportunity for you to see what you can do. And yes, there are systematic methods about how to go about it. Some of them I'll elaborate in my book. The biggest one being understanding the risks and innovating around the risks. So if you do that, the chances are pretty bright that in the next crisis, if let's say there are 10 issues, at least 5 you are able to come back. At least 5 will support you in the rough phase, and therefore you will survive that thing, and then again start rebuilding the entire scenario and pick up pieces from there. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, partly. I still have my own doubts, but yeah, I'll check out the risks, because I somehow feel like an industry like solar. I mean, once even the whole thing begins, it'll take quite a lot of time for things to get normal, because people are going to be more concerned about roti kapra makan, like, versus going for a solution, a green solution or something. So I understand the risk. Though we are all working. We are all on Zoom call every day. So we're doing all that. Our processes are getting, we are working on our processes, and all that is happening right now. And we were very much prepared. That is why even, we will not stop working for a single day. But that's not the point. I mean, the point is, like, the customer has to be there in the market. What are the other services that we can provide him? Will he be ready? So yeah, I mean, I think it's all brainstorming that I need to think on that.
Yeah, thank you, Ruchi. Utssav, is it okay because I can see that there are a lot of people who have raised their hands, and there are a lot of people who really want to ask questions. So is it okay if they can get in touch with you offline, Utssav?
I think we have a time limit here. How much more?
Yeah, so we can take one more question. So is it okay if other people get in touch with you offline?
Yeah. Of course.
Guys, there is a request. There are a lot of questions which people want to ask, but I'm just taking the last question, and it is difficult to decide, but let me give it to Atul Puri. So Atul, you can ask. Atul, you are unmuted now. You can ask.
All right. So thanks, Utssav. Awesome. So one thing that was coming to my mind is that start my video. Okay. So is it on?
Yeah, it's on. Atul, you are on.
Okay, so fantastic. So one thing that was coming to my mind is that more loss happens because of anxiety than because of the actual issue. All right. To put things in perspective, when a fire happens, the loss because of fire is less vis-a-vis people running around. This is what we saw in the WTC attack. All right. So similarly, so Utssav, if you could share something on this perspective, that I think would be helpful for all of us. So and also one thing I would like to share, you were talking about resilience. One way of bringing resilience is to keep certain things in practice. Like you shared from your life that there are certain structures, certain systems that you brought into life. There could be some things which we can bring into our life. For example, in organizations, there are drills for fire. There is no fire, but drills are there so that you are prepared for an uneventful situation wherein an actual fire happens. Utssav, you will speak. I'll not speak anymore. Thank you.
So coming from your last question thing, yes, we always have a fire drill, but did we ever have a drill for work from home? So that's the biggest thing I think one can look at. Did we ever had a drill for, let's say, a risk factor? I don't know. Maybe a cash flow is not coming a month, and how you're going to share the remaining pool within your employees, making them understand. Have you ever tried that, doing a good session? So these are all the risk factors that one has to be prepared for. And unless we do a drill, and you're right, because if we don't do a drill, more people will be killed from the stampede rather than the fire. More people will be killed. We're taking the wrong direction rather than the fire. So yeah,
We are
that's a
already
very
seeing this happening at Anand Vihar. That is a stampede,
yes.
chaos, and that is anxiety.
You know, just before the lockdown, my peon started running away to his hometown, and we literally caught hold of him. Ki, "Yaar, what are you doing? Just stay put at your home." So yeah, anxiety. People when they behave in anxiety, these things happen. But yeah, we can't blame them alone. It happens to all of us because we are unaware, and that's what the session is all about. That's the whole message I'm trying to put out today was that instead of being scared, be aware of what you can do from the future now, and build that resilience into the system. So yeah, did I answer your question?
Oh yes, you did.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Atul.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, so guys, now we come to an end of our session, and before that there is a bonus, and the bonus is that our mentor, our friend, our guru Akshar would like to share his thoughts on this pandemic, or what we are going through, what we are dealing with. So now guys, I am presenting, or Akshar Bhai is on live. Akshar Bhai, over to you.
All right. So, hey guys, good morning, good morning, good morning.
Put your video.
And I want,
Akshar Bhai, your video is not.
Starting my.
People want to see you. Yes, you want to see you.
All right, guys. So, what I want is that I want you to type in chat and acknowledge Utssav and Chandan for doing great job. First of all, bring the energy up in this virtual seminar, webinar. This happened this morning. Come on, come on. Acha guys, so for the last 1 week, we have been thinking of doing something with Go Family, but Chandan and I finally decided. I want to ask you one question. What kind of topic would you like to hear in this Go micro learnings? Is it about you want to learn how to market in the crisis, or how do you invest your time, manage your time, your personal development? So I want to ask you, what are those few topics which you want to learn in these micro learning sessions? So yes, I want some input and feedback on the chat. So based on the input we will get, we will be preparing the presentation on those topics. Okay, great. So Anubhav is saying how to keep customers and prospects engaged, new trends, new ways of marketing, customer engagement this time. Okay, what else? Effective use of time, yes. As a manufacturer, what can we do? Okay. So Pavit, what strategies you are talking about? How to get used to building digital assets? Great. So I want more inputs on the topic, because after this chat, this Zoom call, the core team will discuss what kind of topic we will be sharing in coming weeks. Any more topics? More online engagement with customers, marketing strategies, B2B. Okay, good. So Chandan bhai, I think a lot of things is around marketing and time management. And anybody not interested in knowing about how to invest your time in this time? Invest your money in this this time. So we have got Yogendra Shah, we have got Pallavi, we have got Vivek Pathak, who can comment on that. Money matters and finances.
People
Yes.
are interested. Yeah, people are interested in that.
Okay, so what we are doing is that based on all the inputs which you have given in the chat, we will be covering all the topics, and the next session will happen on Friday 11 a.m. just like that. For any feedback or any Q&As, please drop in the chat or the WhatsApp group which we have, and I will be taking a power-packed session on marketing in the COVID times. But before that, I would like to take care of certain common questions, common topics which people have in mind. For example, innovation, for example, money, and maybe the mindset, all those things. Then I will come to the marketing. So, Filal ke liye, I think over to you, Chandan bhai.
So thank you so much, Akshar bhai. I think you ignited, you created that fire again, and people have started sharing a lot of things. So we are now loaded with the ideas and loaded with the topics. So you have made our job much easier now. So we'll scan through, guys. We are taking definitely whatever you are sharing. We would be reviewing it, and we'll come out with some topics which will really add value to you in this time. So stay tuned. And for now, I think I'll really apologize that we have, the session was till 11:40, but we have taken 15 minutes more. So I hope it was okay and worth of your time. So thank you so much, guys, and look forward to tune in on Friday. So we would be having another power-packed session and another speaker and expert in an area and a topic where you want to listen or you want to have a session. So thank you so much. Goodbye and have a wonderful week ahead. Thank you so much. So we are just making this session end. Thank you so much.